In a world built for the landfill, Sean craved something lasting. He looked around and saw a culture obsessed with convenience where everything was made to be thrown away. But deep inside he yearned for permanence, a sense that what he made could stand the test of time. He was done with the disposable, tired of the endless cycle of buying, using, and discarding. The throwaway world left him feeling empty, disconnected from the things he owned. The plastic, the fleeting, the things that broke before they could even gather a story. He wanted no part of it anymore. Surrounded by a society that forgot how to build, Sean felt like an outsider. People rushed past his workshop, never stopping to wonder what it meant to create something with your own hands. He longed for the satisfaction of making something real, something with a story, an object that would carry a piece of himself into the future. Blacksmithing called to him. Fire, steel, sweat, and honesty. It was a craft that demanded respect, patience, and a willingness to learn from failure. There was no shortcut, no faking it. Every blow of the hammer was a test, every mistake a lesson burned into the metal. The metal revealed your skill, or your lack of it. It was honest in a way few things are, refusing to hide your flaws or let you pretend. For Sean, this was a test of character. Each day at the anvil was a chance to prove himself, to grow stronger and more capable. He wanted to create objects with purpose and soul, a gate, a tool, something that would be used and valued, not just owned. A knife that could outlast him, passed down through generations, carrying the marks of his hands and the memory of his labor. Building his own forge was a turning point, a commitment to a harder, dirtier path. It was a declaration that he was ready to invest in something bigger than himself. Friends called him crazy, but he was building more than a workshop. He was building a legacy. Every brick, every tool, every scar on his hands was proof of his dedication. The first time he lit the forge, the roar of the fire felt like a primal call answered. It was as if the flames themselves welcomed him into an ancient brotherhood. The heat, the smell, the power, it was intoxicating. The forge became a place where he could lose himself and find himself at the same time. Here, he could fight back against the tide of the temporary, shaping something lasting from raw, unyielding steel. In the heart of the fire, he wasn't just heating steel, he was forging a new purpose, one that would define his life. He was joining a long line of craftsmen who knew the hardest work is the most rewarding. Their legacy was now his to carry forward. Sean was ready to get his hands dirty and build a life with meaning, one forged in fire, sweat, and the relentless pursuit of something real. Sean's workshop was a cathedral of craft, thick with the ghosts of 1,000 fires. Every tool was a relic, every surface dusted with soot, every mark a testament to honest work. His anvil, scarred and massive, had seen generations of hands. Each hammer, each vise was a link to the past, a reminder that he was part of a noble tradition. Here the clang of steel was meditation, the forge demanded full presence. In this gritty sanctuary, Sean felt grounded, preserving history and building his own place within it. He wasn't just making objects, he was making meaning. One day, a 16-year-old named Leo appeared at the workshop door, eyes wide, eager to learn. He stood in the morning light, his hands fidgeting with nervous excitement, drawn by the promise of fire and steel. The old wooden sign above the door creaked in the breeze, as if welcoming a new chapter.
I saw the smoke and heard the hammer, the clang echoed down the street, and I just had to see what was inside. I want to make something real. I want to shape metal with my own hands, to leave a mark that lasts.
Sean saw a familiar spark in Leo. It reminded him of his own first day years ago when he too was hungry to learn the secrets of the forge.
Come back tomorrow, ready to work. This isn't easy, and it's not for everyone. The craft demands respect and sweat. You'll earn every lesson with your hands and your heart.
Leo's lessons began with a broom, not a hammer. He swept the floor, gathered coal, and learned the rhythm of the workshop before ever touching steel. He learned to read the fire, to sense the rhythm of the forge. The dance of heat and air was as important as any tool.
Controlling the fire is the first skill. If you can't master the flame, you can't master the metal. Without the right heat, the steel won't yield. The color tells you everything. Too cold and it cracks. Too hot and it burns.
Leo watched, listened, absorbed every detail. He studied Sean's hands, the way he moved, the patience in every strike. Finally, Sean handed him a small hammer and a simple project. Forge a square nail. It was a humble beginning, but a rite of passage for every blacksmith. The first attempts were clumsy, the nails bent and ugly. Each mistake was a lesson, each failure a step forward.
Let the hammer do the work. Feel the weight. Let it fall. Don't force it. Don't fight the metal. Guide it. Trust your instincts, and the steel will follow.
Slowly, Leo's strikes grew confident. His hands learned the rhythm, his eyes the color of ready steel. He forged a straight, true nail. It was a small victory, but it meant everything. The pride on his face was unmistakable. In that moment, he saw himself as a craftsman for the first time. In that moment, Sean became more than a blacksmith. He was a mentor. He saw the future of the craft in Leo's determination. He was passing down knowledge that couldn't be learned from a book. Every lesson was forged in sweat, patience, and trust. Seeing Leo's progress was as rewarding as forging a masterpiece. The workshop was alive with new energy. It was a different kind of legacy, one made of shared skill and passion. The bond between teacher and student grew with every strike. The workshop echoed with the sound of learning. Each clang was a promise that the craft would endure. The future of the craft was in good hands. Leo's journey had just begun, but the fire was lit. Sean realized teaching was as vital as forging steel. Passing the hammer was the true test of a master. The tradition would live on, carried forward by strong hands and open hearts. An email from TOT Blacksmithing cut through the analog world of the workshop. They'd seen Sean's work online and issued a challenge: forge a modern Viking sea axe, both tool and art. The blade had to be pattern-welded Damascus, over 300 layers, a test of skill and nerve. The pressure was immense, failure would be public. But the challenge sparked a fire in Sean. This was a chance to push his limits and prove himself. He accepted. Days were spent researching, sketching, and planning. He studied Viking sea axes, determined to honor their spirit while adding his own signature. The journey was about to begin. The work began with fire, alternating layers of steel, bound and heated to a blinding yellow-white. Sean and Leo watched as the billet reached welding temperature. Sparks flew as the power hammer fused the layers, the process a violent dance: heat, hammer, repeat. Fold after fold, the layers multiplied, 15, 30, 60 over 300. Finally, Sean shaped the sea axe, artistry meeting brute force. The steel fought him, but he pressed on. Then, disaster during heat treating, a faint tink, cracked steel. The blade was ruined, hours lost in an instant. The quench had been too aggressive. Sean stood in silence, the failed blade in hand. The lesson was brutal. The craft is unforgiving. Failure is part of the process. He would have to begin again. The cracked blade sat on the bench, a monument to failure. Sean felt the sting. He'd rushed, let ambition outrun patience. The steel demanded partnership, not command. On the fourth day, he tossed the failed blade in the scrap bin and started over. This time, he was deliberate, letting the billet soak, moving with care, coaxing the steel. Anxiety faded, replaced by calm. He fell back in love with the process, not just the product. As he forged the new blade, he added his maker's mark, a stylized anvil. He left a subtle imperfection, a twist in the pattern, a nod to the beauty of flaws. This blade would carry the memory of failure and the humility it forged. It would be strong, beautiful, and unique. The lesson was clear. True character is found in the flaws. The new blade had a story. It was ready for its soul to be revealed. With the blade forged and tempered, it was time to reveal its soul. Grinding and sanding peeled back the crust, exposing the hidden Damascus pattern. Leo helped, learning the patience of hand sanding. When the blade was polished, Sean dipped it in acid. Patterns swirled to the surface, dark and bright. The blade's history was now visible, its DNA revealed. For the handle, Sean chose dark walnut, shaped to fit perfectly. Brass accents completed the piece. Assembled, the sea axe felt alive. Balanced, beautiful, formidable. It was more than a knife. It was the sum of fire, steel, sweat, failure, and redemption. The blade had a soul. The day of the test arrived. The sea axe wasn't meant for a shelf, it needed to prove itself. Sean set up challenges: rope, water bottles, hardwood, and finally, a block of ice. The blade sliced rope cleanly, danced through bottles, chopped wood without damage. The edge was perfect, razor sharp, tough as an axe. The final test, the ice block. The sea axe split it with a crack, emerging unscathed. Sean inspected the blade. No chips, no flaws. It had met every challenge, exceeded every expectation. This was more than a knife. It was a testament to resilience, a piece of legacy forged in fire and steel. Leo watched, inspired. The process had transformed both blade and maker. The sea-axe was ready for the world. Sean packed the sea-axe in oiled cloth, his hands moving with the practiced care of someone who knows every inch of the blade. Each fold was deliberate, a final gesture of respect for the work he'd poured his heart into. He placed it in a handmade box, the wood itself chosen for its grain and strength, as if the box was a second home for the blade before it ventured out into the world. Sending it off wasn't just business, it was sending a piece of himself into the world. Every shipment was a quiet hope that his work would be valued, used, and maybe even cherished by someone he'd never meet. The blade carried the story of failure, of mistakes made and lessons learned at the anvil, recovery from setbacks, and patience forged through hours of repetition and resolve. The journey mattered more than the destination. Each step, from raw steel to polished edge, was a testament to persistence and growth. The workshop, with its tools and soot-stained walls, was more than a place of work. It was a sanctuary, a space where time slowed and focus sharpened. It was the center of his world, a place where he could lose himself in the rhythm of creation and find himself again in the finished piece. Here, he found purpose, choosing the harder path, making things that last, and refusing shortcuts that would cheapen the result. Legacy wasn't fame or fortune, it was the quiet pride of knowing his work would outlast him. It was skill passed to Leo, his apprentice, who watched and learned not just the craft, but the values behind it. It was a gate that would swing for a century, standing strong through storms and seasons, a silent witness to the lives it protected. It was a knife handed down generations, gathering stories and memories with every new hand it served. His legacy was built one hammer blow at a time, each strike echoing with intention and care. It was a life of substance, integrity, and a quiet pride that came from honest work. He refused to accept the disposable, believing that true value was found in things made to endure. The fire in the forge faded at the end of each day, but Sean's inner fire burned bright, fueled by the knowledge that his work mattered. There would be more challenges ahead, new projects that would test his skills and resolve, failures to learn from, and triumphs to savor. That was the nature of craft, and life itself, a cycle of effort, setback, and renewal. Sean had found his place, a blacksmith, rooted in tradition but always reaching for something more. He was forging meaning from raw material and struggle, shaping not just metal, but his own story. He wasn't just making a living, he was making a life with purpose, one forged in fire, sweat, and unwavering dedication.